Gwan, are you there? What's good? And you know who this is, baby. The number one podcast in America, dedicated to all you kings and queens of color, homies and homettes, shotters, woo gals, G-boys, and charges. The one and only Jerk Jollof and Collard Greens podcast.
What's good? How's everybody doing? I'm happy to be hosting. I'm always happy to be hosting. I'm trying to catch up to Glenn one day, but it ain't gonna happen. Anyway, the panel's going to discuss America's Western lifestyle. For centuries, America has followed traditions that are outdated and quite possibly behind other first world countries. America continues to modernize its technology, but not in a way that handles providing better public service, such as healthcare, emergency service, work benefits, and tackling humanitarian issues within the country. The panel will discuss their opinions, experiences, and suggestions on how to make a utopian Western society. So let's make America equal for once. Now, before we delve any further, if you aren't already a follower or perhaps tuning in for the first time and would like to learn more about the show, then definitely check us out on Instagram at Jerk Jollof and Collard Green Pod, where you can stay up to date on our latest offerings, announcements, and join the JJC community. Well, you know anything about us? We all come as a collective. First up, we got He's My Royalty! D Black.
Yo, if nobody else caught that was coming to America, but that was pretty bad.
I think our listeners are well cultured in the
All right, you're right. My bad.
Unfortunately, we have a man missing in action, but he never misses any action. Francis, we'll see you next week.
Nice.
Next up, I'm gonna butcher this. So Dre, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Mioro hambre mitad incredible. Tres su padre.
Machete.
Mucho gusto. Gracias.
Hey,
Thank you.
We just lost our Hispanic demographic. Our Latinx and happy Hispanic Heritage Month, by the way.
Yeah.
I tried my hardest. And finally, we have the co-host with his cerebral cortex that will create a vortex that is complex but effective, recreating a societal complex that will bring a breath of fresh air. My man, co-host G Ransom.
What up? And I'll say all that, yes to the above. That is all correct. It all rhymes. It sounded nice. So I'll take it.
Dropping bars. Okay.
Dropping bars. Okay.
It took me like 90 minutes to put that together. Just kidding. For the Rep Yours segment, D Black, you got it.
All right. Before we jump into the discussion, we'd like to dedicate this episode's Rep Yours to Clarissa Lee Jewelry. Clarissa Lee Jewelry is a female-run, Black-owned jewelry business. The label was conceived through the CEO's desire to share unique accessories that highlight beauty and style in intricate gold pieces. This modern jewelry label features trinkets for every occasion. There is something for everyone, and each item was carefully chosen to cater to a specific individual. Whether you need small or large hoops, knobs, necklaces, chains, or wrist and ankle accessories, Clarissa Lee Jewelry has a piece for you. They can be found at clarissaleejewelry.com. Thanks, guys.
Hey.
Hey. Boop, 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 boop.
Yeah, I definitely jacked you on that one.
Okay.
Let's get into it. First question, on a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate your quality of life in America?
I guess I'll go first. You want to take the honors? I'll go first. The quality of life for me personally in America, I'd have to give it a hot smoking 3. Out of a 1 to 5, I would say it's middle of the pack. Only because, let's be real, being a person of color in America isn't really the easiest thing to do. And some of the hurdles of being, a Black male in America and the disproportionate treatment that you get sometimes can be, very triggering. And I think we came out of 2020, which is probably the most racially infused or imbued year ever, considering, some of the acts committed against people of color, not just by police, but also just other American citizens that just don't share the same skin tone, it's been a trialing time. And then another part of it is also being a middle-class American, where your quality of life, you need to have money to be in this country to really, I think, to really embrace the benefits, you need to be of a certain socioeconomic group. And, not having access or that kind of financial freedom kind of puts you in a box. And we all know the middle class is probably the most dumped on in this country. So that's my take. A solid, hard, nothing that great, not too bad, 3.
Yeah, for me too. I mean, I would say definitely, I wouldn't say average. I would say above average, but I mean, I don't know what rating scale we're using, but it's not like perfect. But I don't think that there's any area, any country, anywhere that's perfect. So, but I feel like the opportunities that we do have in America are definitely more than, we would have, in other countries, maybe some other third world countries. But, I will agree with Selasi's point that, there's definitely a lot of opportunity for improvement. Obviously, the history has shown that we haven't always, as Americans, America as a country hasn't always, I guess, prioritized everything equally or prioritized the issues that really needed to be addressed right away. I guess if it's all about, opportunity, success, creating the best, chance you can for you and your family, I mean, America's kind of one of the best places to do so. If you have a dream, you have a passion, you have goals, and you really kind of hit the ground running, you can kind of bring those things to life. So on that note, yes, but when it comes to more social issues, yeah, I think we tend to fall a little bit short.
Yeah, I can go. I would say I'll give it a 4. I think I was able to take a shower today with water. I was able to drink the water that came out of my faucet. I guess I'm just kind of thinking of this from like a very just very kind of normal thing, right? A week ago I had to get a COVID test. I drove and got a COVID test for free. I got the results in 12 hours. So I guess I'm being super thankful or super practical about kind of my hear about stuff that's going on in other parts of the world. I kind of feel like that we have it really well. I think, at least from my perspective, I think sometimes it's easy to kind of forget how well we have it because of some of the things that have just always been afforded to me my whole life, just things I've never thought of. Now I know that I live in Los Angeles, so I know maybe my reality is different from other people who live in America. I know there's still people in Michigan who can't drink the water that is coming out of their faucets, right? And I am very aware of that. Or I even was talking to one of my friends who had to jump through all these hoops to get a COVID test. Like he actually lives in somewhere in Cleveland or in Ohio, and he was basically explaining he called like 6 places and all places told him that they were out of COVID tests. And basically telling him he had to wait days to be able to schedule an appointment to get tested. And so I know that there are kind of differences within America, but I mean, if I wasn't vaccinated, I could get a shot today if I needed to, right? I know there are a lot of countries who are not afforded those luxuries. So I don't know if I'm just being super super practical today or super thankful. I think I've seen some really bad stuff on the news this weekend that maybe has made me be a little bit more thankful of living here. Not to say that anyone is not by saying that, but I feel like although it's not the best or perfect society, I don't know if I could live anywhere else, to be honest with you.
I would say my experience is a 3.5. That 1.5 echo what Glenn said when it comes down to ethnic class and economic class. We don't get treated fairly. So I can't do the same thing as my white counterparts can in certain situations. And that's where the problem lies. It's just that for us to exist, as long as we have, for us to be, all men are created equal, we're not treated equally. And the examples go back a couple of years and more recently where we have to legitimately argue saying that, hey, we are a non-threat when at this point we've proven otherwise. So it's just like, well, when it comes down to finances, yeah, I agree with Dre. There's some things I can do. I can take a hot shower. I can turn on Netflix. I can, energize my house with electricity. But nonetheless, you still have that problem where it's like, if I want to go buy a car, the car salesman's gonna look at me differently because I'm black instead of being white, and that's a huge problem that needs to be corrected and fixed. Things aren't that bad, but they aren't that great, and there's a large room to grow, and it shouldn't take up until 2021 to start talking about those points. These are things that we talked about in the 1960s, even before that. So the treatment is not there, but the quality of life of the things that I can access is there. I have fresh water, I can pick up fresh groceries, I can do a whole bunch of other things. That's great. But what creates a huge difference in the quality of life is the way people view us and treat us as ethnicities and people of color. So that makes a huge difference, and I will bring it to a 5 once that happens. So the next question is, what is your favorite thing about American society and why?
So for me, I mean, I think, like I said, the opportunities is like, I mean, the opportunities here, like you literally have you have the ability to make your own America, basically. Like what America is to you. They say the land of opportunity because they mean it. There's people that come from other countries that come here to fulfill their dreams. So many times I've like heard from these like small business owners, that they came to America, they started a business, they passed it down to their kids, and now they're here. So if you really work hard, and you really put your head down, and you really kind of dig in, you can be successful. So I think that's one of the great things about it.
I would say for me, the fact that there is no one American society. Because you think about it, there are several societies that kind of exist in America. Like you could pretty much find a pocket of people that believe the same thing anywhere. And I think like me growing up in New York, Far Rockaway, Queens, what up? I was able to see just different pockets of ethnicities, races, just the amount of diversity that you get in America, I would say is the one thing that definitely makes it stand out, because I don't think there's anywhere else where down the block you can probably get Chinese, Thai, Pakistani food all on one strip. And if you've ever been to New York, you know what it is already. So the fact that, to a degree, we're able to coexist. I would say the fact that there's not just one defining people, it's like it's an immigrant nation. You know what I mean? There's people that have come from all over the world that lend their greatness and, in some cases, lend their biases that make America what it is. And to me, that's, was one thing that I like the most about it.
I feel like people forget that, though. It's such a good point, Selassie. It's like that. People forget that, America is a melting pot. It is made of other cultures. And that is where the beauty comes that makes America so great. Yeah,
and I actually challenged I've read recently that America is actually more like it's gonna sound funny, I know your sesame meters are gonna go up, but a tossed salad. And the idea is that, with a melting pot, the idea is that all these people are different, yes, but they all melt to the same idea.
Okay.
But in a tossed salad, we all become a part, of the whole, but we all still have our differences that make us unique, and we retain them. So the same, like, not all Americans are Catholic. We have some Muslims, we have some Jews, but we're still all Americans in the same vein. We're not any less. So
I like that tossed salad principle. I don't know if I'll ever use it again.
Just say cultural.
Maybe just salad. Maybe just salad. Maybe you don't have to add the toss.
I know you got to keep the whole thing, like a Tribe Called Quest. You have to say it. America's like a toss salad.
Yeah, I would say my favorite thing is probably also my least favorite thing. It's a combo. I think it's kind of our how in America we do have a lot of freedoms, and we basically kind of demand freedom in a lot of respects. So to me, it's almost kind of like it's a double-edged sword where, yes, there are obviously there's a lot of ways that we are not free as a people or whatever, but there are some things that, I can decide to have whatever follow whatever religion I want, to some respect, right? I know that there's some people who have certain religions that maybe aren't as protected here in the States. So it's not that I'm saying it's perfect, but yeah, I think that's probably my favorite thing, but it's also a least favorite thing because I think it also kind of gives people this sense of entitlement that they don't have to follow certain rules. I know we had a couple podcasts ago where we talked about COVID and just how there's we do have the freedom to decide to not get a vaccine, right? There's all these different states fighting over if you have to wear a mask in school, or if you go into buildings, or if you do all these things, right? So that's where like that, I guess, push pull comes with that thing. And I think that's maybe just because COVID is still on my brain quite a bit. I'm thinking of our freedom being both my favorite and least favorite thing about America.
Not my America. It's always about freedom.
I know my rights.
Yeah.
I would say my favorite thing is just the variety of entertainment that America offers. So you look at sports, you look at movies, you look at TV shows, you look at like, what is it, roller derbies, you look at
roller derbies. They still roller derby?
I think so.
Oh, absolutely they do. My
I
have someone very close to my life who roller derbies quite seriously.
Nice.
It's a thing.
My bad, Chunk.
There
You would love it. Chunky would probably be one of the best
rollerbladers
of all time.
Yeah, it seems like straight awesomeness. You have UFC, so mixed martial arts.
Car driving.
Yes. Yeah, but that's usually in commercials. But what is the other thing where cars crash into each other? It's just slipping me.
Cars.
Demolition derby.
Yeah, demolition derbies, monster truck rallies. Like whatever it is you want to see, you can go and see it. So I would say that's a beautiful thing. That one of my favorite things about America is just like one day I can go to like a Renaissance festival. The next day, following after that, I can see some monster trucks smash into each other. The next day after that, I can see a beautiful soccer game. So it's just so much that is here, which Selassie already mentioned about just the culture that you get. Like you can walk down the streets, hit so many different restaurants at the same time. You can plan out your day and hit so many different things that has nothing to do with each other, and it spawns from that culture. So speaking of which, this is my favorite thing, and I'm going to direct this towards Steve Black. If you had to explain an American to an alien, what would you tell them? And you have to leave out the yams part.
Like I know what you came for.
Anybody got a what episode was that? You got a reference break?
What would you do?
What would you do?
Alien yams, bro. Oh my gosh. Well, it'd be kind of hard to explain to them that they don't understand English.
They understand English. At this point, whatever language you speak, they understand. They have a translator.
All right. They got Google Translate. Got it. So I would use Selassie's reference that it is a salad, but I would take the toss part out.
Oh, that ruins it.
No, but seriously, I think like again, I really like again, it goes back to my favorite thing about America is that it really is whatever you want it to be. You choose your America, you know what I mean? You live the life you want to choose, you want to live. There's no one person, you know, that has the exact same story as the next person. You know, we have all these wonderful people on our podcast, and we all live completely different lives. We all have different levels of, you know, involvement in society, all these different, like it's whatever you want it to be. So, you know, as long as you're willing to do the work, and you'll have a good time.
Man, you're a horrible ambassador for the planet Earth trying to explain something to an alien.
Yeah, it'd be so hard. They'd be like, no, delete.
This is America you want it to be. We don't know what America is.
No, but that's the beauty of America, that there is no true. It's so funny because I feel like people are so avid on trying to identify America as this thing. It's like it has to be this thing. But America really is just whatever you want it to be. It's all about freedom. And freedom to do what you want, and as long as obviously rules, laws, politics, policies, all those things have to be upheld. But outside of that, you can do whatever you want.
You just said it can be whatever I want it to be. So if I want to run around lawless and run every red light and, you know, drive my spaceship around and land on whatever I want, that falls in the category of whatever I want it to be, right?
Well, that's what I said. Rules, laws, regulations.
You said expiration.
That has an expiration date until you get caught.
I love that. Rules, laws, regulations. Outside of those, yeah.
And that kind of goes on to go ahead.
No, you're good. Go ahead, because I'll ask you this question. So I think you'll have a better response than you.
So I guess I throw my hat in there. Well, I'll champion what Dee said as far as, you know, there's different versions of America for different people. And to that extent, it's very hard to kind of succinctly say, hey, in a one line, this is what America is going to be like for you. So I came up with this. I was like, yo, look, alien, it depends on where you fall on both the socioeconomic and racial ladder. If you're rich, there's nothing you can't do. The world is yours. You know, if you're white and rich, even better. That's the dual combo right there. That's like the chicken and the waffles. You know what I mean? There's nothing better than that. You pretty much run the world. You know what I mean? If you're black or brown, then get used to being down. And if you're poor and brown, well, hot damn. You know what I mean? And if you're yellow, pink, or tan, then your worth is merely defined by your work. So never forget that. You know what I mean?
Wow,
and not to sound like completely cynical, but it's just like, to me, it's just kind of hard to ignore. Yes, America has promise. America has opportunity. You know, you're fed the idea that there's white picket fences, the dog in the backyard, the family of four, you know, all of that. But you don't realize how much shit you got to go through before you even get to that. You know what I mean? And that's what I think a lot of people are missing. And then on the other end, you know, to Dre's point, you kind of ask the question, do we have too many freedoms in this country? And, you know, I think America, you know, as a Western civilization, you know, a lot of people look up to us, especially from third world countries. If you're comparing it to a third world country and not another, you know, well-developed nation, then yeah, you're going to be able to say, at least I got running water, at least I got heat, at least I can go to the supermarket and there's food. You know what I mean? In Jamaica, you have people that are buying like food by the ounce, you know what I mean? Because, you know, the economic reasons. So yeah, we can say that for people that are poor in this country, it's like, another way I would look at it too is that you either have to be extremely poor or extremely rich to get any benefit out of it. Because apart from the capitalism, we're also a social economic society. So where, you know, we look out for the welfare of some of the people that are underprivileged. But it's just like, if you fall anywhere in the middle, you know, you're fucked. So it's kind of like, either you're extremely poor,
you are your own problem,
or you're extremely rich. And, you know, it has its caveats where you have people take advantage of systems. You have people that are able to avoid paying taxes. And it's just like on the wealthy end. I can't throw Brother Wesley under the bus that. You know what I mean? I'll say maybe Jeff Bezos. You know what I mean?
We just asked him for his money. Now we're throwing him underneath the bus.
Yeah, I mean, he ain't paying taxes probably part of that 1% that ain't paying taxes. So, you know, yeah, give me some of that charity. Write it off as a charitable donation.
Write it off.
Yeah, not to go on my soapbox, but I mean, it really depends. You know, Steve Black's point earlier, it really depends on who you are and where you fall. But at least with America, it has the potential to change because there truly is power in the people to kind of advocate for that change. And it'll be a long fight, but if you keep up with it, there's a possibility that you can change what America looks like to you.
Yeah, it just feels like, and I think that's the main point. Like with all these technological advances and all this advancement, running water, all these things like that, I think it's just kind of tough when you're trying to grade like a country or something. And it's like the technological piece, the social piece. I mean, I said the social piece doesn't meet the technological piece. It doesn't meet the opportunity piece. It doesn't meet the, you know, all the privileges and provisions that are out there when there's a social wall kind of around those things. So I feel like that can be kind of the caveat, but if you can navigate that, yeah, Alien would be great.
Drake?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I guess if I could slightly change it to, instead of having to explain them, maybe I would take them to Venice Beach. I think Venice Beach would probably give them like the biggest representation of what America is. You'll have some weed smoke in the air. You'll have homeless people. You'll have multi-million-dollar houses. When D Black came to visit me, there was someone who had a rooster on a leash. You know,
that was kind of crazy.
It was kind of like a very wide-ranging, you know, representation of America. I do kind of want to challenge Glenn a little bit. Although, yes, there are things that are, although some people will have like a much harder way of kind of moving through life. I don't know if it's not like it's a death sentence. It's not like it's not like basically saying that like you're never going to amount to nothing because you started out poor or whatever. So I still think, although some people may have a lot, if we're trying to put it to like a race analogy, right? There's some people, if you're running a 200-meter race, there are some people who are starting at the 100-meter line or maybe 150-meter line. So there are some people who have advantages, but those people also don't have, it's not guaranteed that they're going to have a great life and succeed as well, right? So I know you're not meaning it to be that way, but that's the only other thing is I wouldn't want to tell an alien or a new person that there are, I guess it is important to let them know about things, letting them know the reality, but I will say that there still are a lot of opportunity here. Again, some people will have much harder challenges in life, a harder path, but I still believe, and maybe I'm just like super optimistic. I still believe that there are still a lot of people. I see so many examples every day of people who are making it work, regardless of what their circumstances are. And that's one thing that I would want to, I think maybe that's the biggest thing that I would tell them is that like, no matter where, there's going to be a lot of people who hate you, right? Because you're an alien, right? Because you came from, like, you're going to have it hard, right? They're going to be, whatever, but it doesn't mean that it's necessarily a death sentence or that you're doomed to not have a successful experience here.
No, that makes sense. So I guess to amalgamate what you and Glenn are saying, I would say, pick brown, right? For simple fact that you get to see all of America. You get to see the best and you get to see the worst. Living life through that way, like you said, Dre, you're still able to become someone or something or to make a path, or if you're green, whatever case may be. But there are different nuances between your gender and your race. But the best experience you're going to get is being a person of color. I believe that people of color at times have the best cultural sense. We're able to identify and empathize with other cultures that are around us. And if you're Puerto Rican, you're bringing that spice. If you're Jamaican, you're bringing that jerk. And if you're Nigerian, you're bringing that puff puff. And if you're American, you're bringing that fried chicken and waffles. So there are things that we bring to the table that make this amazing tossed salad in America. But if you pick one race, you're not able to see what's behind that. You're kind of gypped from that experience and opportunity. And that's what makes the character of a person. So the most important thing to some people is having that character versus having that money, and vice versa. But nonetheless, I'll tell that alien, like, hey, hop up on the podcast, tell them who you are, where you're from, and Glenn's going to be the host. So good luck.
Shout out to Ship.
So that's going to be tough enough as it is. So another thing I want to ask is that which country do you believe got it right in how its society functions and how its citizens interact with one another?
Ooh, that's a tough one because it's so interesting because so with every country has like they're strong in certain things, but they're not strong in other things. They all have their own problems, I think there was France when COVID first hit, it was like shutting everything down, and even like the president was smacking people in the streets. But they still have a lot of like racial, social problems. Like, I mean, it's funny because, well, not funny, but like being a Black man in France is very difficult. And a lot of people you wouldn't think that because they're known for, like they're the language of love, right? So, but they have their own social problems too. Prime example, another country, obviously. So Germany, they have a lot of labor laws that are very, very favorable for their employees. So you think that, oh, that's better. Education is paid for a lot longer there as by the public standards. But then on the same side, then we've all seen the history with Germany and the struggles that they faced. So I don't think there's necessarily such thing as a perfect country. I think it's interesting how we all seem to struggle on social issues. But when it comes to addressing social issues, certain issues, it might be a little bit easier in a country where like it's a little bit more regulated, or I don't want to promote a communist country in a sense, but you know, is like when it comes to certain social issues like pandemics and stuff like that, but then they'll have certain issues when it comes to people's freedoms. They'll suppress people's ability to speak. So there is definitely going to be, there's no such thing as, I should say, there's definitely no such thing as a perfect country. You know?
So like utopias do not exist.
Exactly.
I think a utopia can exist, but we're getting way ahead of ourselves right now.
Okay.
So it's not about a perfect country. What it's about is that which country do you believe got it right and how its society functions. So you named a lot of different things in each of the societies that you've had evolved between France and Germany, but there are some societies, I think it's like what, Switzerland or Denmark, where like people are treated very well. Like they have it pretty
Norway.
good. They're pretty chill. They're very relaxed. They get the right amount of time off from work. It's the right work life balance, and that's already implemented across the country where people function to a high level where they have no real stress. So that's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be perfect, but there are some societies that function in a way that is conducive to better health when it comes down to their citizens.
I guess one example, I don't know if this necessarily fits the criteria, but it's something that I thought of right away is from what I understand, Germany kind of as a country kind of dealt with their Nazi past in like a very specific way. You know, they addressed it. They didn't kind of sweep it under the rug, you know, kind of almost like what, you know, I heard about kind of just how seriously they treat dealing with their past, you know, their you know, that their history, and it just wasn't like a swept under the rug thing. You know, kind of comparing it to kind of how we have not properly addressed kind of, you know, the institution of slavery in this country. You know, it was refreshing to hear that kind of as a country they had like very set a set process in place and a set education in place to make sure, I guess to their best of their ability, that doesn't happen again. But to kind of talk about it, like, yeah, this was a really terrible history of our country, but it's important for all of our citizens to understand exactly what happened, how it happened, and how it will never happen again. So I don't know if that properly answers the question, but that's the first example I thought of is basically like a country kind of properly addressing its kind of history of something that, you know, obviously they were not proud of. Whereas, you know, I guess trying to compare it to our example, us not kind of handling it, not ever addressing it, almost acting like it never happened. I know that there's all these different debates now in schools about the teaching of it. I forgot the exact term for
CRT.
Yeah, CRT, critical race theory. You know, just, you know, so I thought that was interesting. I immediately thought of that example.
Well, you said it so eloquently. If it doesn't fit, it fits now. Glenn?
I mean, if you look at the stats, what are the top three? Like, I think America's like what, number 20 out of the top 20 recently. The United States, and I think the top three were like Canada, our neighbors, like Denmark and Switzerland. And let's take even outside of the lens of race. You look at how people are being treated. If you look at the mortality rates, where we were seeing like the life expectancy for Americans now is like what, I think like 80, 85 years. And you look at other countries where people are looking, it seems as if they're living longer, more sustainable lives. You think about how maybe the labor laws, how women are being treated when they return to work. I think America has some of the strictest like maternal leave policies out of most of these countries, where they only allow like what, 6 weeks, I think. So basically take maternal leave after having a child. So it's kind of like the treatment of people here. I can see why it ranks in the lower end of that top 20. Is there a perfect country? No, I think the experience is going to be a little different for you, you know, based on who you are, what you are, you know, where you fall on certain ladders. But there are other ways to improve, yeah. And I think that's evident from the research. But if I had to pick like one other country or nation to reside in, I think that'd be hard to do. But I would have to look at our neighbors, honestly. And I guess some people could also make the argument that other countries may not be as diverse as America. 'Cause I think like Denmark is a top 3, and like African Americans probably make up 6% of that population, as opposed to America where we make up, about 13%. So is it like there's too much diversity in some of these countries, the ones that rank lower, or is that an issue? So this is a lot of different ways to look at it, but yeah, to the point, there's really no perfect country or nation out there.
I mean,
Yeah, I think Selassie kind of hit it dead, like because of the fact that, I mean, you can only be as perfect as the scenario that you're facing, right? We're talking about some countries that are like maybe half the population to a third of the population of the U.S. And we're obviously have way more. Our population is a lot more. Our population is more diverse. People come here from other countries to get opportunity, so we're always mixing. Like, every ethnic group you can think of is going to be represented here in the U.S. You'll find them, versus other countries where that's not guaranteed, or you got to search, really hunt, or know who you're looking for before you find that specific ethnic group. So it's not like more money, more problems, or more people, more problems, but having a lot of people with different backgrounds, having a country where people are encouraged to believe what they want to believe or live how they want to live, there's always going to be a chance where someone's beliefs is going to conflict with somebody else's. And now they're all living next door neighbors to each other. So of course it's going to create some challenges and adversity. So, in those other countries where everybody believes that one thing, where everybody, praises one person, worships this one person, makes money this way, goes to the school this way, like everything is uniform. Like you go to school, you graduate, get a degree. Like if that's how the country operates, then yes, they're less likely to have conflicts because everybody operates that way. But in the US, everyone has the ability to be whoever they want. So my choice of living how I want to live is going to ultimately conflict with somebody else's, which is going to ultimately bring down that America score down,
So, Matt, I wouldn't say like there's no perfect society, right? So when we get wrapped around the axle on like there's no country that's perfect, I think we all understand that. To Glenn's point, I want to throw this out there. If you haven't listened to episode 19, Black Mental Health Awareness, I would say do such. Dr. Cynthia talked about these things called Blue Zone. So that's very important to know. And hopefully one day we can make America a blue zone, but that's going to take some time and some effort and a lot of concentration. But when it comes down to it, there are things in each society that work out perfectly, that can be implemented in America. And you guys hit on some very key points of how people are treated, right? But the whole thing is that the beautiful thing about American society is that I'm free to be whoever I want to be. Now, the challenge is people accepting the way that I choose to be. Anything that you have, there's going to be a conflict. If it's not race, it's gender. If it's not gender and race, then it's your economic status. So I think that's a part of being a human being. That's just something wired in our brains, something we have to get past to say, hey, I accept you for who you are and what you do, period. And that takes a lot of work, a lot of healing, and a lot of speaking to each other and not past each other. But nonetheless, if you can take something from another society and implement it in America, what would it be to make America a little bit better than what it is?
Oh man, I'm about to get in trouble for this one. But this is like it's kind of tough because it's like everything that you can probably bring in is going to be some kind of political issue. But I would say, I don't know, universal healthcare is one of the things I've always kind of been kind of touchy on.
Talking about that Obamacare.
Oh God!
I was gonna say that's not that crazy of an idea for people to have the ability to go to the doctor when they're sick and it not have to cost an arm and a leg. That's
and I guess so. Here's my thing, and let me just back. So I'm naturally humanitarian. I'm always like, I feel like I want to be more of a humanitarian, I should even say, but I feel like that takes, as people kind of progress and do better and make more, you need to also kind of care about your other fellow Americans so that they can also further advance and make more and be better. And that will ultimately propel America into this higher plane. So that's why I say universal healthcare, because at least someone is being cared for. If someone has a health issue, Like, especially right now, it's absolutely crazy. People can't afford it.
Mhm.
It would be really advantageous if at least everyone had the opportunity to get some form of healthcare. I'm not talking about the politics of it. I'm not talking about the regulation. I'm not talking about what it looks like. But I'm just saying, in general, I feel like everyone should at least have guaranteed access to medical treatment when they need it.
So to cover down on that, just to be clear, what you're saying is that a trait that American society can take from other countries is being a better humanitarian in the sense of taking care of the person that's next to you, which specifically includes healthcare, where people should be able to go out and receive treatment that they need in order to keep functioning in society.
Wow, nice. Thanks, Chunky. That was great.
What I'm here for.
That or their employer should be coupled in right away. Like, boom, the part of your package of being an employee here is you get healthcare. And I think that's a necessity to upkeep, just our like quality of life and your employees if you're really looking out for them. Shoot.
Yeah.
I guess
like it shouldn't follow on businesses though. Like we got a lot of small businesses.
Either way,
that's where it gets
humanitarian. Let's just keep it at that level.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I would say on my end, like I know Finland does it, like it's legit. And I think, America particularly is a company that acknowledges like resources and what you have and what you don't have is really what identifies where you fall in America. And one thing Finland does is they made broadband like internet illegal, right? Like to think about it, in America, you still have people that don't have computers, that don't have internet access, that maybe don't even have a cell phone. And like some of these things that have become damn near basic necessities to survive in America, to stay connected and to really improve your quality of life. So, to bring back to that point, yeah, we should become more of a kind of altruistic, forward thinking type nation where we're trying to really equip our citizens with all the best possible things to an extent. I mean, that may mean an increase in our taxes, which is very debatable and arguable to this day. The reason why universal healthcare, is so problematic because who's going to pay the bill to support that? And here it's all about the individual. So I would say if there's any one thing we could borrow is just those necessities, those resources. There should be a way for us to implement them, even if that does mean a tax hit. You know what I mean? Then at least we know that, all right, our fellow people are well equipped and have some basic necessities that they can use and utilize.
So what I'm hearing from you is that it's once again being humanitarian, but a technological humanitarian, where people are afforded the opportunity and pretty much the right, not the opportunity, the right to have this modernized access to things where back in the day when the first telephone was created, it only a select few people had a telephone, like a landline. And then eventually it grew to almost everyone having it who chooses to have it. So in this day and age of pretty much, I would say the future, quote unquote, everyone should have access to that level of technology that is just average. Internet is something that makes the world go round and everyone uses it for the most part. So to be connected to society and life, you need to have internet.
Yeah, basically that. And also, it's another crazy stat real quick, but, I think it was about like 63% of Americans don't have enough money, don't aren't even saving. So basically, an unexpected bill of $500 can send about pretty much more than half of this nation into debt. Like, think about that.
Yeah.
So it's another thing about the healthcare as well. Like, I'm a paragon for all of those. I think those are all essential. But to summarize it as you did, Chunky, yeah, I concur.
Trey? Sorry, yes, I'm not.
That's it.
Cool.
Yeah, I would say, I guess, kind of sticking to the humanitarian box. I know this one will probably get me in trouble, but to me, I really do. What we have in this country with just how some people are not paying their fair share to be citizens in this country is just kind of is really disgusting. So, how there's some people who make whatever, there's people who make, millions of dollars, pay less in taxes than someone who makes $40,000 a year. Like, that's crazy to me that there are people who make more money, who basically are afforded a lot of the same kind of services and, you know, whatever of being a citizen of this country, but they're not paying their fair share of kind of being a citizen of this country, right? There's people who, again, are paying a very high percentage of tax versus people who make a lot more, who don't do that. So to me, I know that there's always these arguments about there's not money to pay for these things, but I think there is. But I know that that's kind of a very kind of, you know, not necessarily. I know there's other countries who kind of do things very differently with as far as how taxes are handled. You know, when I was working in the with my colleagues in the UK, like the whole like tax process is just like it's simplified. It's like your job actually does your taxes for you. It's not like you're having to do these things and learn the laws and do all these things. So I don't know. I don't know what I don't know how to sum it up, but to me, it's basically, I guess, everyone paying their fair share to be a citizen of this country.
So I would,
and
I would
hopefully that would, if done correctly, it would maybe have less people struggling the way that they are. Maybe more people would have access to healthcare, more people would have access to internet, more people would have access to, you know, all these things. You know, I would hope, or I would assume that those things could help afford to fix some of these these like really big gaps in wealth between people, right? You know, it's crazy to me that there are parts of this country where there are people who, like Glenn mentioned, don't have internet, right? There's parts of the country where people don't have access to food, right? To grocery stores, you know, just clean water, right? Still, it's still one of those things where that just sounds insane to me, that there's still places within the United States, like next to major cities, that still have water that they can't drink. Like it just, I don't know what the answer is, but one of the nasty things I always see is whenever we are talking about taxes, and just like how a lot of these loopholes exist, and there's just people who are not able to, basically there's people who are not paying what I believe they should be paying to be a citizen of this country.
So I would counter you on that in the sense that there are people who aren't able to obtain legal means to work in the United States, and they don't pay taxes because they get paid straight cash. Are they not ciphering money out of the system that can be paying for other things? So you talk about people need to pay their fair share to be a citizen. My opinion, everyone's a citizen that crosses over that line, whether it be legally or illegally. They go through the means and processes to attain their actual American citizenship. To single a group of people out saying that they don't pay taxes, on the opposite spectrum of that, there are people that don't pay their taxes, that's in a lower social economic class, that we don't know that they're here, or whether or not, or how much they're getting paid. They don't file anything.
Well, I realize that is a thing, but to me, the amount of people who are doing that versus the people who are making, I don't think it's close, to be honest with you. I think there's more people. Yes, there's always people doing wrong. I agree that there are people in this country who are here illegally, who are not paying taxes. But to me, I don't know the numbers to speak of this, but in my very uneducated, stupid estimation is I believe that there are not as many. I don't think what causes the issue is because those people aren't paying taxes. I think we have enough examples of millionaires and people who have the means, who are basically avoiding, who basically have all these different, they put money through these different things. They open up businesses in other countries. They do all these things. There are a lot of examples of people who don't want to share their tax records because it would highlight what they are not, how they are not kind of being a part of this country. So yes, I don't want to negate that there are people who are here who are not paying taxes, but I think there are probably more people or a bigger percentage of physical dollars of people who are not doing what I believe they should be doing. There's people who go on record saying, I want to be taxed more.
I don't take away from that, but like once again, when you talk about people aren't being citizens, that's kind of dangerous in a sense that we just discussed earlier that America is a tossed salad, right? And it takes everyone to make it a part of it, whether you're here legally or illegally. That's something that the legal system will sort out. But everyone contributes somehow, some way, in a particular type of fashion. So I wouldn't discount anyone as a citizen or pay their fair shares to be a citizen. Whether you pay or not, you're still a citizen. You have people that are homeless that get things for free off a certain program in any municipality or any state, but they're not really contributing to society, right? They're not paying their fair share as a citizen because you're doing absolutely nothing. They're pretty much utilizing services for particular reasons that take away from something else at that given time. So my thing is that everyone here in America, once they get their citizenship, is a citizen. How they go about it, as we discussed before, there are different ways that people do things that makes America what it is today. So from what I'm hearing from you, it's just being a responsible humanitarian, right? So in a sense that if you're going to use resources, you need to pay for those resources, and the amount of resources that you're using, you have to equate your balance back to it. I can't sit here and take away from a well and not do the legwork to expand it or build it or to make more pipelines for it to be distributed to other people. So do your job as in making the society the way it needs to be, where everyone can benefit from a single pot or multiple pots, right?
Well, I guess I would challenge that too, because by definition, a citizen is, participatory member of a political community, is gained by meeting the legal requirements of a national, state, or local government. A nation grants certain rights and privileges to its citizens. In return, citizens are expected to obey their country's laws and defend it against its enemies. If someone is legit not paying their taxes, no, they're not a citizen. That's going against what you're prescribed to do as an American citizen or citizen of any nation.
Not necessarily. So it was said by Dre that they were able to go through that system legally, right? He said it like, these are the people who have big companies that are allowed to have big companies, and people know who they are. So when you talk about those laws, we are the creation of those laws. We know how we can mobilize and change things, and we as a society have to be able to mobilize and make those changes. If you believe you can't make those changes, then there's some inward reflection that you have to make. But things take time to evolve. So if you feel as though someone should be paying more or equatable taxes, then make that known. You push that up to your local politician. You push that up so it can be heard and be put on the floor, be voted on, and can be changed. Talking about it does but so much, but actually putting pen to paper and making a useful means of it, that's what gets us to where we want to be, to see the things that we want to see.
That's what Biden's doing right now. He's trying to impose laws to tax the ultra wealthy.
So I'm not going to get into who does what. Okay. So just be respectful in the sense that every political party is different. They have their goods and their bads. But the beautiful thing about it, there are different political parties that makes America what it is, just like the cultural tossed salad. So having them there is able to have the conversation. And what I said before, let's stop speaking past each other, but to each other, to make the sense out of it. So with that being said, if there's any American tradition that you can add, what would it be and why? And my thing would be a Bacon Wednesday once a month. Everyone has to eat bacon. Who chooses to eat bacon? And there's a vegan option for bacon, but I think that's dope. So it's just like, all right, cool. I apologize to those who are vegans, but my thing is, like, let's have another holiday that we can get together, have fun, have a beer, have a juice or whatever, and pretty much get to know each other. Thanksgiving is cool, but I think there's something else that needs to be updated to refresh us, saying that, hey, even though we have a lot of differences, we have progressed a long way, and here's a brand new holiday for us to celebrate each other in an equal manner.
I kind of like that idea. First of all, I like bacon.
Unless you're a Muslim, of course.
Like I said,
damn.
and it's a choice, and that can be changed to say insert whatever food you want here, but nonetheless, just adding something different for us to get together for a different reason, showing equality.
Yeah, that's funny though. It's funny because I don't even like regular bacon. I only like turkey bacon. So
Beef bacon is where it's at.
beef bacon. But yeah, I think I actually like that idea. But yeah, something that brings us together. I realize that I feel like we're stronger as a collective than as individuals. So if there's a way to kind of bring us together where we can kind of have more conversations and have more open forums and stuff, I'm all for it. So I don't really have a specific event in mind, but I think fun things. It's always good to bring people together on like a fun idea, So bacon or something that's not food related, maybe I don't know, roller derby. Maybe that's violence related if you like violence.
Yes, the UFC fight.
UFC fight.
Anyone else?
I would say mine would be a national travel day, to where every citizen's required to, one, get a passport, and then two, because you have Americans that do not have passports, which I find is kind of crazy. But I get it though, not everyone travels. But I think travel is essential to seeing how other countries do things, how other people do things, how other cultures do things. And I think travel would help a lot of us in a big deal. Like you'd be mandated to take at least one trip every 5 years to another country. And basically, just use that as a kind of way to kind of open up our experiences and see how other people do things, how other nations do things. And of course, they'd have to be reciprocal to it as well to let us in. You know what I mean? But I think like a national travel awareness day could benefit a lot of Americans here.
Could that be government funded?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
No, I mean, if it's mandated, it would make sense. That here's the thing that you're saying, for people to understand each other. It's just like that shows that the system is saying, hey, we want to become a better society, so we'll fund for your trip to go somewhere. I mean, you get your tax returns, right? So why can't that be built into your tax return, saying like, hey, this is quote unquote your travel return?
We're not talking about the structure, because you may not want to take nobody's tax return. People love their tax return. No, that's their tax return, bro.
But I think he's saying you could claim the travel on your taxes.
Right. It's a write-off. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. I think that honestly, that's probably one of the best ideas I've ever heard. I like that idea because people don't travel enough, in my opinion. And I feel like going to other places forces you to open up your eyes to other people's cultures. I love that. That's a great idea.
Dre's to Padre. I messed up on rolling that R, but hey.
I don't know if I have a tradition I mean, we have a ridiculous amount of holidays in this country where every time I turn around, every holiday there's a mattress sale for President's Day, or there's I feel like we have there is no shortage of this country of holidays. I honestly can't think of without being like a Debbie Downer person. I don't know if I could think of like a tradition that I would want to put officially on the books. Yeah, I don't know if I have one.
Oh man, I was hoping you'll come with like the father one, like, hey, everyone gives that a hug, that wants to give it out and wants to receive one, to embrace each other.
Man, we don't even want to wear masks, man. To make people hug each other, I don't think it's happening, man. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm super cynical. Maybe Glenn has slowly infected me with his cynicism.
You don't know until you ask for it.
He's turned
Exactly.
me. He slowly turned me this podcast.
Come to the light, Dre Supatre.
Yeah, no, he brought me to the darkness. Brought me to the darkness.
I would still stand on. It's just that you don't know unless you try, and anything worth having is worth fighting for. So it may not happen the first time, second time, or third time, but history has taught us the things that are most important for us to have is humanity. As we continue to push forward, it's not just getting it, but being able to evolve individuals' minds to start accepting the things that need to happen. So with that being said, last two things I got for y'all is that do you agree with the statement that Americans only bond together because of tragedy? You know, World War One, World War II, 9/11, hurricanes. When something goes down, people come together, they make things happen, and they show the genuine goodness that's in Americans' hearts to either create more things that are needed or to go out and save those people or to risk their own lives to make sure people are safe.
I'll tackle this one. And I would say, the question was, do we feel that Americans bond together in times of tragedy, times of despair, duress? And my personal thought on it, and not to be cynical, but the analogy that I use for it is, how I think this will relate to all of us. How we have like a death in the family, and sometimes that's the only time you get to see some of your other siblings or relatives, right? Either there's a death in the family, a wedding, or some grand occasion. And after those occasions pass, after those events pass, everybody goes their separate ways. You probably won't hear from that family member again until the next funeral. So to me, I think public displays of unity or attendance should not be confused with unity as a whole, because in the same vein where, okay, 9/11 in as example, you had tons of Americans banded together, to mourn the loss of life, loved ones. And that was probably one of the greatest acts of terrorism committed to America in how many years. But in the same vein, you had people that used that event to fuel anti-Muslim narratives, to show hate towards Muslims, to objectify them. Look at the coronavirus, how many people came out with anti-Asian sentiments in a time where people are dying, and where a simple act such as wearing your mask, which would be the greatest display of unification, and something that they were damn near giving masks away. Shoot, I saw, Newark crackheads had masks on. So I'm just like, how is it that, that you have people here that have nothing that are wearing masks, yet you have some people here that are doing way better that don't want to wear it just because they feel like they have a choice. And when that choice has never been the betterment of my fellow people, you know what I mean? So I think there's a lot of confusion there as far as, displays of unity or attendance. We confuse attendance with unity, when you may find out that the only thing we're unified at is that we all feel strongly about a particular thing. This one event brought out either the best or worst in us. And that's where the unity, in my opinion, lies.
So to counter that, like I will start with the coronavirus part. Once that happened with the Asian people, you also had people that counter that with the Stop Asian Hate movement. And that awareness was spread and things started to balance back. So yes, there's going to be a yin and yang with the situation, but nonetheless, it brought out unity in two different types of communities, and it actually brought a balance together where people were able to stand up and say something and not necessarily convince, but to show the different perspective, like, hey, this is the result of your actions. It's not acceptable. There's going to have to be a change in order for us to exist. And even with 9/11, when it came down to Muslims, there were groups that were out there that was pretty much preaching and saying that, hey, you can't just target a certain group of people because it was put out there that this was the type of people that did it. So like I said, there is a balance to it. People band it together, something negative spawned out of it, but then that negativity was met by positivity, and it actually worked out the way it needed to. And we got to where we need to be as America.
I don't think
know.
so.
I don't agree with that.
Okay, I hear it, but I don't.
Yeah.
It didn't stop attacks against Asians still, and once again, I don't know, but that's my take. But I'll let.
I mean, but the whole thing is that there is negative and positive when it comes down to it, and D Black said it himself. There are things that I want to be who I am in America, and that's going to offend somebody. But then again, it creates that dialogue of having to understand what's on the opposite end of the spectrum, or having to understand what quote unquote opposes me, which I still think is a beautiful thing. Unfortunately, there are things that happen. There's no perfect anything, like I mentioned before, but things spawn out of it to make strides of progress.
I don't know. The only thing I would say about that is, and again, that's why I feel like I say it all the time, and now it's like more and more people catching on with the humanitarian part. But if you're coming, you come to America to make your best, life for yourself. Others understand that other people are trying to do the same thing, And just because, however they choose to live their lives, as long as it doesn't impact directly to yours, then you should leave it alone. Yeah, I feel like too much we get caught up in the lifestyles of other people. Yet we're not, your life isn't perfect. You still have things to work on. You still have money to make. Like you're not financially where you want to be, or you're not whatever, socially, whatever the case be. Don't use, don't turn that negative emotion into energy to now attack someone else. Because I feel like it's so often that people use other cultures or individuals or groups or whatever as the source of their personal problems. But the reason why my life isn't right is because of this group. This is the reason why we're not winning is because of them. The reason why America ain't great no more is because of them. So thus, just focus on yourself. If you make yourself the best version of yourself, make your immediate people the best version of themselves, then, and everyone's focusing on just doing that, I feel like we went out,
Cool. Trey?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, so my wife and I had to drive back from a out of town trip on 9/11, and it was really interesting on the way back to see the amount of flags and you could tell that there was a percentage of the US population that that really resonated with obviously the tragedy that happened on 9/11. And it was just really interesting to me because I guess if I had been in LA, I probably wouldn't have seen those type of, so like literally we're driving on the freeway and over every overpass, there are people with American flags and signs that say never forget and all these things. And I just like, I would have never, I don't think I would have seen that had I stayed in LA. So that was a really interesting thing. So for those people, it looked like that was like a really big bonding thing. There was like a whole car, basically like a couple hundred cars on the freeway that had these massive American flags from the back of their pickups and other vehicles. And it was just like a very, definitely you could tell that that day resonated with them in a way that when we got to LA, I did not see those same type of celebrations. So I guess that's the thing with America, right? There, we are not a monolith, just like any other group. And it was really interesting to see kind of the difference between the almost the different two different Americas with that. So I don't know, that was one really interesting thing where I'd never, and maybe it's just because I haven't been out a lot on 9/11, the day itself, but it was a really interesting thing to experience that there were some people who it really resonated with them. So yeah.
There we go. Yeah, so it's interesting, and in your perspective of it, it shows pretty much the wide range of American society, right? So everyone's not going to feel the same way about the same things. Everyone's not going to respond the same way about the same situations. So with that being said, if you can offer one suggestion to our listeners to make America a enhanced society and track towards being a better society where everyone's treated equally, everyone is accepting of everyone else, what would you give our listeners as a nugget of knowledge to start making those adjustments or a adjustment to being more accepting and understanding of the person next to them if they're not already?
I would say it first starts with knowing your history. And I think that applies to like all people that are part of this country, like the real Native Americans. They're a very small percentage. The people that came here, colonized, exterminated, committed genocide. A lot of history there. There's a lot of history to America. So first, get your knowledge right, study up, do your research, get the real history behind America, how it got started, and the people that comprise it. Before you start claiming that this is your own country, because you have a lot of people that are doing things they feel are in defense of their nation. not knowing that their nation is comprised of a mosaic of people, not just one, but a mosaic of people. And globally, there's a lot more colored people out there than there are non-colored. So it's like, educate yourself. And if you're an immigrant here in the country, educate yourself some more and just get a stiff reminder of who you are and where you fall. And I think once you get an understanding of that, yes, America is definitely a place where you can make an opportunity for sure. You can pursue the American dream, the American Corona, the white picket fence, all that. You can pursue it and you can do your damn best, but you need to have a very good knowledge of America, how it got started, to really understand where you fall and what kind of fight that you might be in. And that's my nugget.
That's such a good point. I wasn't even thinking of that, and I just wish I came up with that answer. That's so good.
Yeah.
Like you can't know where you're going without knowing where you've been.
Exactly.
That's such a fact. For me, I would say, as anyone who comes, you come to America or you're born in America, you live by freedom, opportunity. Obviously, it's going to definitely build on knowing your history, but just understand that every other person is operating in that same capacity, right? If you're free to choose who you want to be and where you want to be and how you want to live, remember that every other person should be free to do the same thing. Just because you don't like the color of their hair, the color of their skin, whatever that is not your business. That's their business. And if we can, like I said, do better at just honing ourselves, being our best selves, focus solely on that, I feel like as a society, we'll get better.
Yeah, just to hit on that, other than also just being the best self, you can be just making sure that you're also treating everyone you interact with on a daily basis, with respect and with dignity and with all those things, right? So often I think sometimes it's very easy to kind of ignore the homeless person on the street, right? Or to maybe you're having a bad day and, you have an attitude with the person who's delivering your food, right? To me, I think it's also a big thing in basically just being like a good citizen from that perspective as well, other than bettering yourself, making sure that you're really kind of as best as possible treating every person, no matter what their how much money they make or how important they are, right? Treating everyone with respect. And I feel like if we can all do that, if every one of us does that, then I think a lot of these issues that kind of plague us hopefully would kind of happen less often, right? Maybe, we don't take certain rights from certain people, right? We don't look at, how people got into this country a certain way, right? Just I think all these things I think it's really all within us to also, that whole, be the change you want to see in the world, that whole quote. I don't know who said that, but, I think that is a really important thing is also just being a good citizen in your interactions with other people. It's not just about you being a good person. It's about you also looking out for other people as well.
Oh, I mean, a lot was said and they're all valid points. The only thing I have to add is that if you don't know your history and you say this is your country, you're right. But it's also the person's next to your country, the next person's country, the next person's country, and next person's country. They may speak different, they may look different, they may worship a different God than you do. But when you fight for your country, you're fighting for them. When you're making change for the betterment of everybody else. Correct. Yes. Know your history. Know where everything started from. Know where everything is moving forward to. But don't leave behind the person to your left and the person to your right. As we see so far, it hasn't yielded great benefits. But when we do bond together and we do come to an agreement, it is a betterment of everybody when we come to that resolution. So let's start making that effort more often. And it's going to be hard if you're not used to it already. But I promise you, as hard as it is now, it will be easier later and for the generations that will come after us. That being said, for more content or to learn more about the podcast, feel free to check us out at Jerk Your Off Colored Pod at Instagram. Podcast episode drops every Wednesday. Stay tuned for the outro coming up right after this to learn more about additional ways to reach out to us and send us your feedback. Be sure to like, share, follow, and or I'm just going to say and subscribe. If you like what you're hearing, feel free to leave us a review on your preferred streaming platform of your choice. See you all again next week. Peace.
Peace.
And that concludes today's episode, but that doesn't mean the conversation has to end. As a matter of fact, feel free to check us out at JJC Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter for our post-discussion question following the release of this episode. If you are a Black or minority business owner or professional that would like to be featured on the Rep Yours segment of our show, or a listener with some general feedback for the podcast panel, feel free to shoot us an email at jjcpod@gmail.com. As always, likes and comments are always appreciated. Be sure to subscribe or follow to be notified when the next episode releases. And until then, stay safe, stay blessed. Peace.